What do? They're holding mega banks accountable for violating the law. They're protecting service members from illegal fees, high interest loans, and false advertising. Stops discrimination in housing and the U.S. economy. Protects students from scams. Why does Elon Musk want to get rid of all of this? Because he's a thief. He's a gangster.
Hey guys, and welcome to Money Talks News, the podcast. That's a podcast that makes you richer one day at a time. I'm your host, Stacy Johnson, and I have a goal today. And that goal is to make you mad, to make you pissed. Because something's happening in our country right now that's making me pissed. And I'm going to tell you all about it. In the next few minutes, you're going to learn that the government is doing things that are really not in our best interest. Here to help me explain it is Christine Hines. Christine works for the National Association of Consumer Advocates. Is that right, Christine?
That's correct, yes.
Tell me, what does your organization do?
So my organization is a membership organization of private and legal aid attorneys and law professors and law students who are focused on the representation of consumers, and we advocate for consumers before Congress and before the federal agencies.
The reason I said that I'm going to make people mad today is because I'm going to talk about the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was established in 2010 through the efforts of Elizabeth Warren. And you're familiar with CFPB, I'm sure, Christine.
I am familiar with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It is arguably the greatest benefit that came out of the financial crisis of 2007 and 2008.
Now, for you folks listening or watching, the CFPB, his whole function is to keep financial services firms from ripping off people like you and me. That could be banks, it could be mortgage companies, it could be payday lenders, it could be people who ostensibly try to help people get out of debt, anything having to do with money. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. Well, first, let me say this. The CFPB is being dismantled. It has been shuttered. Its offices have been closed. Now, theoretically, it still exists, but its staff is being summarily dismissed. So basically, it's going to cease to exist. And I want you to know what this means. Let me tell you one story. And Christine, I'm sure you have plenty of other ones. Let me tell you one quick story. There's a woman named Sally. We'll call her Sally because that's her name. And I got this story from Consumer Reports. So she finds herself $40,000 in credit card debt. She does what lots of consumers would do in that situation. She reaches out for help. She finds a company online through Google, and that company says they can help her. They can give her an interest-free loan, zero interest loan, and they can help her pay off that debt and even reduce the amount that she owes. So she signs up with the company. They tell her that they've been approved by FICO and by the federal government to help consumers just like her. So she signs up. She makes payments of $638 every month. She does that for 3 years, and then finally looks at this thing and says, I wonder how much of my debt's been paid off. And she finds out that of the $38,000 or $36,000 that she's paid this company over that time, $16,000 of it have gone to fees. She was just stolen from. And this stuff happens every single day. I've been a consumer reporter for 30 years. I've done stories like this over and over and over. Okay, so what happens is the CFPB, along with some states' attorneys general, sue this company, and right now, they froze their assets, $72 million, and they froze their assets, and now here they are in court. And guess what they just filed the other day? They said, "Well, this lawsuit can't go anywhere, Judge. CFPB is being closed down." So now they're going to get their assets unfrozen, and those people are never going to collect anything because this agency, designed to protect people just like us, is being shut down. Christine, is that a true story? Do you know stories like that one?
I definitely know stories like that one. And that's happening right now with the agents, with the CFPB, in that the people now who are in control of the CFPB have completely closed cases that the CFPB had against financial institutions. It had cases against a mortgage company, a very big bank, where they were deceiving customers about fees and relating to their savings accounts and and other things. They had these very big cases, and all of those cases have been shut down. So it's really, really becoming a disaster. I think that what's happening now with the agency and the people who are in charge there, and this fight, or this need to shut down the agency, is going to lead to a disaster. I mean, like I said in the beginning, it came out of the ashes of the financial crisis. And if we're not careful, that's where we're going to go back to. I mean, the financial crisis, I mean, it was a while ago. It was in 2007 and 2008, and some people might not remember it, but it led to record foreclosures, and it led to people losing their jobs and their life savings. And the agency, there was this huge void of a financial regulator that we needed one to look out for consumers, not just for the big financial institutions. And there was a hole that needed to be filled, and the CFPB filled that hole. And so this dismantling of the agency and the firing of the employees there, the employees want to go back to work. I mean, they were doing such great work, and they want to go back to work. And so we're asking for a disaster, I mean, incoming, if we don't get this fixed, if they don't change things.
And Christine, speaking of mortgages, you just talked about the financial crisis. There right now in court is I'm looking for the thing. It's a mortgage company that was giving loans to mobile home owners that they couldn't possibly afford to repay, which is exactly what caused the financial crisis in 2008. So as we speak, in court right now, the CFPB is in court with a mortgage company that was doing the same thing that caused the financial crisis. And guess what? They just dismissed the case yesterday.
Yes.
So what's happening is people are getting ripped off, and they're not getting it. They're not going to be able to get any help in the future. And how is this happening, Christine? How is nobody doing anything about this?
This is how this is happening, and why this is happening. I'm not sure. I don't know I just don't think that we're looking at all of the unintended consequences of deregulation. I think that maybe there are some people who have very short memories of what happened before, when people lost their homes and there was just no accountability, and there was reckless lending. And so it's for up to some others of us to remind these people that we need the agency to take account of what the financial institutions are doing, what the lenders are doing, what the non-banks are doing now, because there are a lot of non-bank lenders as well, that we need accountability. We want to make sure that they're following the law, and that's what the CFPB was doing. And if it's not doing that, then I think we're in a whole lot of trouble.
Well, let me tell you what Donald Trump said. This is a quote. The CFPB is a hotbed of waste, fraud, and abuse, whose only purpose is to destroy people, and whose staff amounts to a vicious group. Is that your experience with the CFPB?
That is not the CFPB at all. That every statement there is inaccurate. I think, if anything, the CFPB's work is to ensure that there is no abuse of consumers in their daily exchange with financial institutions, with their banks, with their lenders, that there is no fraud and abuse.
Why is it that so many of these people, from Trump on down, why do they keep saying that it's full of fraud and abuse and that it's hurting people when it's obviously helping people? How can they possibly say that?
I think that what's happening is that the people who are very powerful, so we have big banks, and I'll just recall that right after the financial crisis, when everyone was scrambling, that one of the senators, he spoke and said that the big banks might actually own Congress. So what he was talking about was that they have this outsized influence over politicians. And so during all of those discussions, they created the CFPB in the financial reform law and tried to ensure that the CFPB wouldn't be pressured by all of the political exchanges in Congress, with the lawmakers. So it tried to ensure that the funding was through the Federal Reserve and not through Congress, so that it wouldn't be some sort of a tool that would go away. The banks, the big banks, and the billionaires don't want accountability. They want to be able to do what they want to do, which is to earn more money despite the consequences. Whatever the consequences are, it's okay. Reckless spending, reckless practices, harmful practices, cheating, whatever. There are obviously those institutions that want to follow the law, but they aren't. There are other institutions that essentially want to do what they want to do without someone holding them accountable, and that's why they hate the CFPB.
And to me, it just seems ridiculous to say that. Let me ask you this too. So the big banks they benefit without rules, or without enforcement. But now another argument I've seen is, and I mentioned a minute ago, the state attorneys general, they can sue these companies too. Why do they need the CFPB? Is it duplicative?
Oh, it's absolutely not duplicative. In fact, the state attorneys general filed an amicus brief. They filed a document in the courts in support of the unions and in support of litigation that said, leave the CFPB alone, let the CFPB do its job. What the state attorneys general know is that, yes, they have some authorities, but they know with the CFPB having the federal authorities over the entire market, that there is a good partnership there. Because the state AGs are concerned about their respective states, right? And the CFPB has a wider view of the market over the entire country. So there is a good partnership between the state AGs and the CFPB. But essentially, we need both. We need both because we're talking about a vast financial market, thousands of banks and lenders and other institutions and the consumer reporting agencies. There's so much out there, and so we need all of that to ensure that the market is working for ordinary people like us.
And I'm going to stop here, folks. I want to tell you something. I probably right now sound like I'm some like Democrat or some lefty or some this or some that who's got some political agenda. Let me just tell you something. I've been doing this for 35 years. I've been a consumer reporter for that long. I have watched companies rip off people, and the only thing there's only a few things that prevent them. And I'll tell you what they are. It's real simple. It's either ambulance chasers who sue them, or it's reporters like me who expose them, or it's regulators. So if I sound like I'm on one side, I am. I'm on your side. And when you take away regulatory authority like this, what's going to end up happening is, there's laws against all this stuff. But imagine there's laws against murder. But imagine if you dismissed every homicide detective. Well, I guess those laws are going to be pretty hard to uphold, aren't they? And that's exactly what's going on here. And I want you to know, and frankly, if I seem angry, I am angry. And the reason I'm angry is not just because this agency that's defended Americans for so long is being dismantled. I'm also angry that nobody seems to know it, or nobody seems to care. They watch E. They know where Kim Kardashian had lunch, but they don't realize that their rights to recourse against companies that are ripping them off are being removed right in front of their eyes, and they have no idea. So I apologize if I seem angry at this, but I am angry at it. I think people should look and see what's going on in their country, and I think they should see that things are happening that are not of benefit to them at all. They're of detriment to them. This agency brings in costs way less money than it's brought in, that it's given back to the American consumer. And I'm sorry to go off on that diatribe, Christine, but that's a true statement, isn't it? They've brought in more money than it has cost.
Oh, yes.
To maintain that agency. Isn't that true?
Yes, that's absolutely true. The Bureau, since the beginning, has brought in $21 billion. Okay, and that the budget to run the bureau is nowhere near that. So it's what the
I think it's like
existed
$700 million a year.
for the CFPB budget. Yes, and they bring in so much more, or they return money to consumers. The value of the agency is huge for all of us. It's huge. So there we are.
Well, let me close with this, and you can help me with this, Christine. Okay, now I've succeeded in pissing people off here and wanting them to get their CFPB back. What do they do? What do you do if you're listening to this podcast and you think that the CFPB should exist and the government should be helping people not get ripped off by financial institutions? What can people do?
I think at this very time we have the power. We have representatives in Congress. We have a representative and 2 senators, each of us, and we should be calling them. We should be calling them. We should be writing them. We should send them a note on social media. We should let them know that they should defend the CFPB. They should defend all of the rules of the CFPB that keep any greedy institutions in check. They should call their representative and their senators in Congress, because that's where the power lies now. Congress can change the law to further restrict the agency. We don't want that. We want them to ensure that the CFPB maintains its authority to have oversight over the financial market so that it can do its work, so that it can run the complaint system. It has a very successful complaint system that you just talked about, Stacy, where somebody filed a complaint, and they should be able to do that. They should be able to enforce the laws to ensure that these companies return money to the people that they cheated. They should be able to, monitor and make sure that they are complying with the law. So Congress has a lot of authority right now. Tell them to save the CFPB, to protect the CFPB, to defend the CFPB.
Good. And one last thing too. Read, folks. See what's going on around you. Your advocates are being fired. And what's going to happen when those advocates are gone is that you're more likely to get ripped off. And what's unfortunate, as I've covered many times in consumer and personal finance news, is that until you personally get ripped off, you don't care. But you know what? You need to, because this stuff is going to hurt you. It's going to hurt your elderly parents. It's going to hurt your kids. And without, the more protection, the better. I don't mean obviously there's plenty of fat to be trimmed in the federal government, but closing this office at the behest of giant banks is not in your best interest. So pay attention. Right, and we're gonna have a link so you can contact your Congress people and let them know how you feel. And we're also going to stay on top of this, because if you guys don't want to read about this stuff, you can count on me. I will, and I will tell you what happens. And with that, I think we're pretty much out of time. Christine, I really, really appreciate your time today, and also your efforts and the agency that you work for. And tell folks again what's your web address so people can come look you up.
It's consumeradvocates.org. consumeradvocates.org.
Become a more informed public, folks. And we're going to see you right here next time. Have a good one.